The problem of practice was my students weren't really interested in my science center. It was always the last center chosen. They just weren't going there first. And I wanted to get them in there to improve our science and critical thinking skills. I wanted to use the devices to kind of get them in there, and wanted to get them excited about science and then incorporate hands-on activities with it. I asked for 10 PBS tablets in my grant. And the reason why I chose it is there were 7 science applications, and there was several other games that they could do. You could take pictures on these, and you could record videos or anything. And parents could also block anything they didn't want their children on, and they could set time limits. And they were really durable. Earlier, Jessica passed out one of the devices, and as you could tell, the back pops off, and it's like a kind of like a rubber foam, and if they drop them, they wouldn't break. These are some of their favorite science applications. This was a Ready Jet Ghost Space Explorers, and in this one they got to, they could point the device up to the sky and it would show the constellations. On this one was like play and learn science. There was so many science experiments they could do, mixed colors, predictions. There was just a lot of science applications that they could do with these. I wanted to use the tablets during small groups and free choice and at home, and then later on I ended up finding out that we used it during gross motor, and I'll tell you a little bit more. It's kind of strange for science, but I'll tell you a little bit more as we get into it. This was, during our president's theme, we took a vote on their favorite application, and this was what they chose. Cat in the Hat builds that, and there was a lot of science in this one. There was momentum, surface tension, and we actually, on the surface tension, we actually got into some experiments. They were taking droppers and dropping them on pennies, like soapy water, vegetable oil, and water, and to see how many drops they could actually get before it fell off the penny. And they loved that. And that kind of gave them an idea of what surface tension was and what they could do with it. And this game had so many science concepts in it. They absolutely loved it. And during free choice, this is the Cat in the Hat build that. They're over here, playing with it. And then I wanted to incorporate hands-on stuff. So they chose to go to blocks. And in one of the games, they had to build different structures. And they kept on building the Statue of Liberty. You can't really see it on this picture. But they were talking about New York City. And so we were looking up other buildings that were in New York City. And they wanted to build the Empire State Building. And it talked about how you build things. You start with your heavier blocks, your bigger blocks, and then you go up in that game. And that's kind of what they did here. And then another one, it was during our Dr. Seuss week. It was Oh, the Things You Can Think. And this little girl thought of a building that she wanted to do with 3D art materials. And it was a Tenosaurus. And it was a building where dinosaurs could go and live. 10 dinosaurs, she said, could fit in this building. So that's kind of what they made with the Cat in the Hat builds that during free choice. And this was free choice too. This was during our dinosaurs week. One of our ICANN statements was, I can tell what herbivores eat. So this little boy was using dinosaurs A to Z, and he was sorting dinosaurs by herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. After he had played the game. Here on this is Play and Learn Science, and back a couple months ago we had a colors thing. We had mixed different colors, so she was gaining them. For the science week, we were doing water, different colors of water, and what they would turn into. We had the blue water on this side and the yellow water on this side, and we had a paper towel, and then it would go through the paper towels to make a different color. And she remembered from our past theme that, blue and yellow made green. So when she was doing that, she got all excited because she had remembered. This was gross motor, and this is how we incorporated it for gross motor. They can take pictures. We were outside looking at shadows, and you can see all the shadows. So the children were taking the pictures of their shadows, and then we printed them off, And they were seeing whose shadows were bigger, or if they could, we covered the children up to see if they could recognize the person's shadow. So that's what we did with gross motor with the devices. And then we took, for small groups, it was a pretty day, so we went outside. Outdoor family fun with Plum. You get to explore plants and animals and insects. So we have a bug collection. They got to look at the bug collections. They even caught bugs. They were catching ladybugs, stink bugs, any bug they could find outside. And they had their magnifiers looking at them. This was Ready, Jet, Go, and I kind of told you about that, where you can point it up to the sky and it shows you the constellations, the planets. And this is a little boy doing Sid's Science Fair. He was looking at different butterflies during our insects thing, and they got to sort by if they had wings or how many legs they had, or if they had pinchers, and just different sorting activities. This was a home activity. Our children also got to take them home, which they absolutely loved, and the parents loved too. They loved getting to see what their child was learning at school. And they also did like a little activity. I sent a little activity in a bag home with them that they could do. And the siblings were even involved in that, and they absolutely loved it. In our winter assessment, all 20 students were emerging, and nobody was meeting program expectations at this time. And then in the spring assessment, you can see had 7 that were emerging, and then 13 that were meeting program expectations. And that's pretty much here too. We have different dimensions and objectives. You know, using scientific inquiry skills, demonstrates knowledge of characteristics of living things, demonstrates knowledge of physical objects and materials, knowledge of Earth's environment, and uses tools. And with these devices and our hands-on activities, they did all of this. And this was our winner. Everybody was emerging. 3-year-olds, 7, 100% were emerging. 13 of the 4-year-olds were all the way down. But then in the spring assessment, after introducing the devices and the activities, you can see we had, our 3-year-olds were still emerging, but the 13 of the 4-year-olds were meeting program expectations. My research question was, can children of 3 to 5 years of age use science applications to build a more engaging relationship with science? And yes, I believe they can with those hands-on activities. They just weren't, sitting, playing on the device. We used the device with the activities to kind of align it to help them build a better understanding. The results, students seem to have a better understanding of the science concepts and the critical thinking. They were asking those how, why questions, making predictions and observations. Students were engaged in learning. Parents were also engaged with their child's learning. Science scores were improved, and the Science Center utilization, it improved tremendously. These are some of the questions and predictions that they made. How many eyes does a fly have? Why did the bee lose its wing? How do they fly if they only have one wing? Why does a caterpillar have to go into a cocoon to turn into a butterfly? Or his foundation is more sturdy than mine. He used heavier blocks on the bottom. I think the water's going to turn green. The dinosaur is a T-Rex. He goes into this pile because he's a carnivore and they eat meat. And where do you think butterflies live and how do they sleep? It was just continuously. So I could have wrote pages of questions that they were asking. And that's it. Thank you.